A new month, but the same problem. Crime continues here in the city of Baltimore. The changes that residents want to see immediately. And after much debate, Maryland lawmakers reach an agreement on the future of the Boost program, how they were able to save that funding that was once in jeopardy.
And after a windy and very stormy start to the weekend, we are going to calm things down today. I'll let you know what to expect for the second half of your weekend in a couple of minutes.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
Happy Sunday morning to you. Look at that. The sun just peeking through those clouds over there, giving you a nice warm yellow and pinkish hue today. Here, it's April 2nd here, and we're having a great day here in Fox 45. And so are you, depending on the forecast, though. Meteorologist Amy Aronson. Is it going to be like yesterday? I mean, it did brighten up in the afternoon a bit.
Yeah, yesterday was wild, right? We started with rain. We warmed things up well into the 70s, and then the storms came through and the winds really ramped up. Hopefully your home didn't suffer too much damage. Here's a look back at the highest wind gusts over the past 24 hours. 63 miles per hour at BWI. Incredible wind speeds there. We had wind gusts close to 30, 40, 50 miles an hour in a lot of locations over the past 24 hours. I'm happy to say winds have calmed down significantly. Still a little breezy out there. We've got that northwesterly wind now at 11 miles in Westminster, 23 in Baltimore, but overall winds will come in much calmer today. It is noticeably cooler. The 70s, that's a distant memory. We're starting off in the brisk mid-40s right now in all locations, and today will be cooler even as we head through the afternoon. So bundle up as you step out with the dog. It's going to be a little breezy out there still. Despite the sunshine, we're starting off in the 40s and we'll actually stay in the low 40s through the end of the morning. The good news is the cool down's not going to last long, so more 70s on the way this week. I'll explain where our temperatures are headed and when we are tracking our next weather maker in 10 minutes. Taylor?
All right, we're starting off here with the city in crisis. 3 people were killed in a shooting last night along Woodring Avenue in northeast Baltimore. Police say it happened around 8:45. When officers got there, they found 4 victims with gunshot wounds. 2 men were pronounced dead there at the scene. 2 others were taken to the hospital where one of them later died. The 4th victim is currently in critical condition. Mayor Scott is asking the suspect to turn himself in.
Turn yourself in. You did it. You have to own up to it. Own up to the disgusting thing that you did tonight. We cannot continue to allow people to lose their lives this way. We have to resolve our basic human conflict in a different way, not being a coward.
Now, police are asking if you know anything to contact homicide detectives. That number 410-396-2100 or Metro Crime Stoppers at 866-7-LOCK-UP. Baltimore police are also investigating a double shooting along West 22nd Street in North Baltimore. It's just a block from the Maryland Avenue subway station. Now, 2 men were shot there, ages 25 and 38. Both were taken to the hospital. If you have any information about this shooting, contact police. Now, calls to address crime are growing louder in Annapolis. There are bills that are currently on the table with this legislative session, but it's winding down. Senate Bill 564, it makes theft of any handgun a felony. House Bill 952, the Repeat Violent Offenders Act, it would increase fines and jail time for gun crimes. It also closes a loophole which drug dealers get a lighter sentence than someone convicted for the same offense. And House Bill 481, or Ivan Bates's bill that he backed. It will increase the maximum jail time from 3 to 5 years for those older than 21 if you're convicted of illegally possessing a gun.
I've gone to too many funerals. I've gone to too many and watched too many people and young boys and young men and young kids and young ladies who look like me and you that are dying and losing their life.
I understand the wraparound services, and I agree with that. And I don't want to see mass incarceration, but we will see accountability.
Now, as people here in this community demand change, so are folks in Washington. Fenton Hill spoke to 2 members of Congress from opposite sides of the aisle about why they're showing support for Baltimore's top prosecutor.
On Caroline Street, a prayer for change in Annapolis.
Over every constitutional legislation, your word will proceed.
In Mondawmin, frustration with the elected leaders.
Do your jobs. honestly, do your jobs, you know, get it cleaned up.
About the endless violence in the streets of Baltimore.
Hold these people accountable for their crimes and their violence, dealing with repeat offenders that are out here still committing crimes.
As several tough on crime bills stall, two lawmakers on different sides of the aisle, Maryland's lone Republican Representative Andy Harris and Democratic Congressman Kwasi Mfume, supporting City State's Attorney Ivan Bates.
I think Baltimore took the right first step, which is to reject Marilyn Mosby and to elect a new state's attorney who I think is talking about doing the right thing.
In House Bill 481, Bates is looking to increase jail time for illegal guns.
5 years is the magic number. I'm asking for 5 years.
Currently, anyone 18 to 20 gets up to 5 years, while anyone 21 and up only receives as many as 3 years. Bates wants that sentence of 5 years the same across the board to guarantee anyone getting the max serves at least a year, even if they're released early.
If he delivers on those promises, I think Baltimore becomes a safer place.
Ivan Bates is right on point.
Congressman Kwasi Mfume standing behind the bill, even writing a letter to the committee as to why.
I support it because it's the right thing to do.
At the rate at which people are shot and killed in Baltimore City,
It seems like it's a way of life, but it shouldn't be.
Congressman Mfume is hoping to put politics aside.
Our streets are too violent. There is a loss of conflict resolution, and guns are too plentiful.
To do what's best to reduce the violence on the streets.
There's always going to be one side versus the other. The key is to try to find the consensus in the middle where both sides can reach some sense of an agreement.
Should members of Congress be limited in how long they can serve on Capitol Hill, or should voters decide? I'm Christine Frizzell with why that question is coming up once again.
And we are looking at a bright and sunny end to the weekend, but it's going to be breezy and much cooler. We're back in the mid-50s today. I'll explain exactly how long this little cool down lasts and what to expect for the week ahead in a couple of minutes. It's 7:06. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News.
Fox 45 News, winner of 17 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Taking a live look at Capitol Hill this morning, where approval ratings for some lawmakers are hovering below 30%. It's reigniting talks about term limits. National correspondent Christine Frizzell has the story.
Let me put it this way.
They are some of the most powerful lawmakers on Capitol Hill, and their combined age, 323 years, is not the problem.
We've been here longer.
Their combined years of service, 160 years, is, for some, calling for change.
Enmeshed in backroom deals and broken promises, our capital has too often become a political playground for the powerful and the well-connected.
For years, Senator Ted Cruz has been calling for term limits. Now he, along with Congressman Ralph Norman, has proposed a constitutional amendment to limit the number of terms members of Congress may serve. 3 two-year terms for members of the House and 2 6-year terms for the Senate, though Cruz himself is currently running for a 3rd term.
I've introduced a constitutional amendment to put that into the Constitution.
But you're still running.
And if and when it passes, I will happily comply. I've never said I'm going to unilaterally comply.
Supporters say it's long overdue, despite a similar bill supported by the public failing back in 1995.
I support term limits. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't participate. The majority of folks just don't participate in those critical midterm elections and primaries.
Many Democrats, though, oppose the plan. They say for one simple reason: experience matters.
I've gone through the economic collapse of 2008. So as people are talking about recession now, many of us are talking about what we did and to get out of it.
Government is very complex. The only people that know what's going on under term limits are the lobbyists and your paid staff.
Why do you think term limits, though, is so popular with voters?
Because it rings well, throw the bums out.
Others say term limits already exist in a sense, allowing voters to decide. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzell.
That brings us to our question of the day. Would you support term limits for congressional leaders? So far, 97% of people who voted say yes. Go to foxbaltimore.com/vote and click on that Pulse tab to weigh in. More than 70% of voters here in Baltimore approved term limits in November. The mayor, comptroller, the city council members, they're all limited to 2 terms. That starts the next election cycle. Convicted sex offenders living within miles of Maryland public schools. A Project Baltimore investigation reveals it is legal. What's being done in Annapolis to protect your children? The Boost program set to receive more money after the governor aimed to cut funding. A look at the decision and what that means for school choice for lower income families. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning. Okay, wrap your mind around a child sex offender living on a street right next to your child's school. It may sound outrageous, but it is happening in Maryland. And as Project Baltimore Chris Papps explains, the next few weeks in Annapolis will determine if this continues to happen.
Your example was terrifying about the child pornographer living across from the school.
Lisa Jordan is the executive director of the Maryland Coalition Against Sexual Assault.
We really need to do a better job about supervising sex offenders.
Sex offenders living just feet from schools.
Jordan is reacting to this Project Baltimore investigation, which found dozens of registered sex offenders just in Baltimore County living so close to schools they can see the school property from their properties. Some live directly across from the school, including multiple Tier 3 offenders, a designation reserved for those convicted of the most severe sex crimes.
That's concerning.
But Jordan says there's currently a bill going through Annapolis that would strengthen Maryland's laws when it comes to supervising many sex offenders.
That's what we need. Actual individual plans that help keep us safe and keep our kids safer.
Maryland has no laws restricting where a sex offender can live. Opponents of residency restrictions point out that sex offenders often know their victims before assaulting them. And if sex offenders can't live, say, 1,000 feet from a school or daycare, then there's very few places where they can live. That can drive sex offenders underground, which makes them harder to track.
And the last thing we want is to lose track of sex offenders. We need to keep track of them.
Surrounding states, such as Virginia and Delaware, have passed restrictions on where sex offenders can live. In Virginia, a sex offender who is 3 years older than the victim cannot move within 500 feet of a school or daycare. In Delaware, if any sex offender moves within 500 feet of a school, it's considered a felony. In Pennsylvania, a sex offender may be restricted from living near a school or daycare under a court order, or if they are under supervision by parole or probation, where a specific restriction designates where the offender may reside.
This is a necessary bill to protect our children.
In Annapolis, last week, the Senate Judicial Proceedings Committee debated Senate Bill 57, which increases the number of sex offenders in Maryland who would be supervised for life by parole and probation. Right now, many sex offenders are supervised by the state. If their supervision restricts their residency, that restriction would end when their supervision ends. If an offender is supervised for life, the restrictions would remain. In other words, a sex offender convicted of manufacturing child porn may not be allowed to ever live next to a school.
We need to have more supervision and more flexibility to really make sure that what we're doing with sex offenders is not driving them underground and it's keeping our kids safe.
But the bill, which passed unanimously in the House, receives some pushback in the Senate, specifically from State Senator Jill Carter, who represents Baltimore City.
I do have a level of discomfort with a lifetime supervision. We already have a lifetime registry, right? Like they're already registered. The registries are public. Everybody can look it up. Everybody knows. If you violate the registry, like if you fail to register, that's a crime.
But supporters of the bill, like Jordan, say the registry alone is not enough. It only alerts the public of where a sex offender lives. It doesn't necessarily help keep the public safe, according to Jordan, especially if a person convicted of manufacturing child porn can still live next to a school.
They need to be supervised, and they certainly shouldn't be living in front of schools.
I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
All right, last Wednesday, Senate Bill 57 was voted on by a Judicial Proceedings Committee. It received a favorable recommendation with an added amendment to that bill. All right, let's get over to meteorologist Amy Aronson. Totally a mixed bag yesterday. I thought it was going to be very dark and dreary, but not really the case by the afternoon.
Yeah, afternoon was nice. Last night, little spooky. We had some strong storms roll through and then some very, very strong winds. I noticed some planters down at my house when I stepped out this morning. You're probably waking up to a little bit of wind damage too, and that's what we're seeing all around the region. If you look closely here, you see all these trees downed icons. That means we have a number of reports of downed trees because of the gusty winds. And we weren't alone. There was actually a tornado reported in parts of New Jersey. So to our north, they were dealing with a number of tornado warnings. But here it was mainly the wind damage that we dealt with yesterday and we'll wake up to early this morning. So now that the sun is coming up, we're starting to see what's left behind from yesterday's storms. Luckily, the weather map looks nice and empty. That storm system has moved on. High pressure's coming in today. That's going to help our winds calm down, send us plenty of sunshine, but also usher in some much cooler air. So it feels a little different out there this morning. The mid-40s are back. We have that northwesterly wind still at 23 miles an hour, making it feel quite brisk today. Winds should be calming down as the day continues, but overall it's a much cooler day with temperatures actually coming in below average. So despite the sunshine, temperatures will be stuck in the low to mid-50s this afternoon. Brief little cool down before we kick off another warming trend this week. So by tomorrow, we're already back in the upper 60s, and then here come the 70s. We got a little mini appetizer of that yesterday. More to come this week as we head through midweek. I'm talking mid-70s on Tuesday, upper 70s on Wednesday, and then for our home opener on Thursday, it's going to feel really nice at Camden Yards, feeling like baseball weather with highs shooting right into the mid-70s. So what a treat there. But today's definitely cool and breezy. If you're going to be outside, make sure you layer up. Tomorrow feels better. You could probably get away without a jacket by the afternoon. Upper 60s are back, and then we've got this little stretch of the 70s that take us through midweek. Also midweek, we're talking our next weather maker. We're tracking that with some spotty showers starting on Wednesday, scattered showers on Thursday, although I think right now Thursday far from a washout if you are headed out to opening day at Camden Yards. After that, we are going to cool back down. So the 70s aren't here to stay. Friday into next Saturday, yes, it looks dry as we head into Easter weekend, but it's also going to be noticeably cooler. So it looks like at least for the start of the weekend, temperatures will be hovering around average with highs in the upper 50s both Friday and Saturday. Taylor?
All right, sounds good. Pope Francis released from the hospital. Just ahead, what he told journalists as he left the hospital. And after the break, Twitter changes its verification rules and some big-time accounts are not happy. How the White House is responding. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning. Making headlines this morning, Pope Francis has been released from the hospital. He underwent treatment for bronchitis. Now he's expected to lead at least 2 services during Holy Week, starting with a Palm Sunday Mass today. The Pope joked with journalists as he left the hospital, saying he's, quote, still alive. Twitter is beginning to phase out those blue check marks on verified accounts. Anyone who wants to keep their blue check mark will have to pay that $8 monthly fee. Accounts for the White House and select government officials will continue to be verified with a gray check mark. They won't have to pay for the platform. However, a memo from the executive branch tells staffers they will have to pay for Twitter Blue out of pocket. Vice President Kamala Harris is wrapping up her week-long Africa trip with a roundtable in Zambia. She's pushing for $7 billion in private investments aimed at conservation efforts and food production.
In each of these engagements, it has been clear there is a strong desire from leaders on this continent, from young entrepreneurs on this continent, to increase investments on this continent.
Prior to her visit to Zambia, the vice president stopped by Ghana, where she was pressed on whether wealthy nations would help poor countries cope with climate change, a commitment made under the Paris Climate Accord. Social Security trust funds are running low and expected to run out by 2034. A new report from Social Security trustees shows American checks will get smaller in 2034 if Congress doesn't do something to address the problem. About 66 million Americans received social benefits last year. Another turn in the saga of Roy McGrath, a former Hogan aide turned fugitive. Just ahead, the uncertainty surrounding the author of a mysterious tell-all book. And we're looking at temperatures in the upper 50s today. Meteorologist Amy Aronson is going to let us know how the first week of April is shaping up. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
Good morning to you. Look at that. The sun is up and we're getting up and moving this Sunday, April 2nd already. Thanks for being with us. I'm Taylor Stewart. Let's get over to your forecast. Meteorologist Amy Aronson. You know, I'm looking forward to a bright and sunny day today. Please tell me that's happening.
Sunshine here to stay today.
Awesome.
What's not here, the warmth, unfortunately. Not like yesterday. Low to mid 40s to start things off this morning. These numbers are way down. Yesterday morning was nice and mild. This morning we're down about 20 degrees in most locations. So definitely a different feel for your Sunday. We do have the sunshine this afternoon, so that's helping us out, but it's still going to be a little brisk out there and definitely much cooler. We'll spend today back in the low to actually mid-50s throughout the afternoon. But this cool down doesn't last long. I'm actually tracking a warming trend as we kick off the first full week of April. I'll let you know how long that lasts and when we are tracking some showers in the week ahead in just about 10 minutes. Taylor?
It's a help. It's a lifeline. It's an invaluable program to so many families that are in need.
A major victory for Maryland's Boost program as lawmakers finalize the budget. They're bucking Governor West's more request to cut funding and sunset the scholarships. The program is designed to fund private and parochial education for lower-income families. They're going to receive $9 million in state funding for that program. An additional $2.5 million will go towards school nurses, security, and other health services for Boost program children. The Maryland Catholic Conference took to Twitter reacting to the announcement, saying they are thankful for Senator Bill Ferguson and the rest of Maryland Senate for supporting families and the children who need this program. All right, this is members of the House and Senate have just reached a compromise to keep the state's funded program, which provides those scholarships. It's now that Senator Corey McRae says it's a win-win.
There are moments where compromise is just important, and that's what we can't forget to, and that's what we should always center ourselves around, making sure that how do we solve those differences.
Now, Governor West Moore had pushed for Boost funding to be phased out, saying the money should be directed to public schools instead. Another move reflecting public support, the decision to keep Baltimore Collegiate School for Boys open. That was after threats of closure. The school got a reprieve, though, from commissioners. Coming up in our 8 o'clock hour, we're going to speak with the founder of Black Minds Matter, Denisha Merriweather, on the Boost program and how it could help support families going forward. And then at 8:30, we're going to talk directly with Delegate Kathy Sliga on what Boost means to kids in our region. All right, another twist here in the saga of Roy McGrath. He's the former Hogan aide, now turned fugitive. Just days after we featured him on Maryland's Most Wanted, a second tell-all book is out. And there's some uncertainty surrounding who the author is. Rebecca Pryor has the story.
Well, just like the last book, this one features McGrath in a very positive light and is published under the name Ryan Cooper. Now, my attempts to reach out and get a hold of Cooper today were unsuccessful, as some speculate he's not who he says he is.
The plot thickens in the mystery of a missing Roy McGrath. On week 3 of his international manhunt, a second tell-all book surfacing online, Betrayed, the true story of Maryland Environmental Service, detailing the time McGrath served as CEO of MES prior to his short stint as Governor Larry Hogan's chief of staff. His tenure with the Hogan administration ending after revelations of his 6-figure severance from the state agency. That severance now at the center of McGrath's many federal charges, including fraud, theft, and falsifying records. But the book claims Hogan approved the large payout to offset McGrath's lower salary when he moved to Hogan's office. The book going on to write, it was the same severance other MES CEOs have been paid out in the past, one that was, quote, a reward McGrath more than earned. Accusations a Hogan spokesperson has called bizarre and baseless. The debate behind this severance scandal was scheduled to play out in court this month, but McGrath failing to appear for trial, leaving his lawyer, Joseph Murtha, unsure of his whereabouts.
The uncertainty of going to trial can cause people to do things that we may not believe are appropriate.
And when Fox 45 followed up last week, asking if it's possible McGrath is the author behind the Betrayed series, Murtha telling a Fox 45 reporter, quote, could it be Roy? I don't know. I have no idea. It's a popular theory circulating among the book's critics, one writing, I bet large that Roy wrote most or all of this by himself. Another writing, Roy almost certainly wrote this nonsense. The author listed is Ryan Cooper, but Fox 45 was unable to confirm his identity or relationship with McGrath. Meanwhile, on the cover of the second book is another twist in this tale. A description of the photo claims it's Beth Wooten, another MES employee who's publicly criticized McGrath's leadership in the past and who the book blames for the severance scandal coming to light. The book concludes with a bullet point timeline about how Hogan allegedly betrayed McGrath and promises of a third book yet to come.
And an update in the search for McGrath. Just this week, the U.S. Marshal Service and the FBI, they combined to offer a reward of $20,000 for anyone with any information that could lead to McGrath's capture. In Baltimore City, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Now, we've done some extensive reporting on Roy McGrath as he continues to be wanted for his crimes. For a closer look at the timeline of this entire case and complete coverage, go to our website, foxbaltimore.com. A new census report is out, and Maryland's population has changed over the past 2 years. What an economist says is behind the shift.
And after a windy start to the weekend, wind speeds are coming down today. We'll start off with the strongest winds this morning. You'll notice wind gusts drop off to close to 10 miles an hour this afternoon. I'll let you know what this means for our temperatures and the week ahead in a couple of minutes. It's 7:36. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News.
New census data shows some Maryland counties are shrinking, and it's no surprise to one economist that Baltimore City is on that list. Maxine Stryker has more on why he says crime isn't the only factor driving people away.
New population estimates from the U.S. Census Bureau show losses in Baltimore City and Baltimore County are accelerating. The city's population decreased between July 2020 and July 2021 by just over 1%, and even more people left the following year.
More people should be moving to Maryland than moving out. But in fact, the opposite is transpiring.
Over the past 2 years, populations have dropped by over 20,000 people combined in the city and county. Economist Adnan Syed says crime is definitely a factor.
Some of our communities are very highly taxed. They're very expensive places in which to live. People are worried about crime, of course, including in Baltimore County, which also lost population. And think about what's happening in downtown Towson recently as an example.
Baltimore County saw a record number of homicides in 2021. And this year in Towson, there's been concerns over crime after several rapes and shootings. And in Baltimore City, there have been more than 300 homicides for the past 8 years. Despite revitalization efforts, Basu says it doesn't seem to be enough.
Now, there's some good things happening in Baltimore City, obviously, including a refurbished arena, and people are really impressed with how the arena looks right now. Obviously, a new Lexington Market, lots of work around Penn Station, a new neighborhood at Baltimore Peninsula, so on and so forth. But population continues to decline. High crime, high taxes, concerns about the school system. And by the way, Baltimore County is afflicted with some of these same issues.
In fact, residents have been leaving Baltimore City for years. From 2010 through 2020, Baltimore City's population fell by roughly 35,000 residents, a nearly 6% loss.
Fighting crime naturally, but also working on improving the schools, working on accountability with respect to the public educational systems, and maybe some tax relief.
The new census data shows neighboring Howard, Harford, and Anne Arundel counties have seen gains since 2020. It may be people are moving there or even our neighboring states, according to Basu. He says the solution to growing, not shrinking, starts with new leadership.
You need leadership that understands that we need to have a vibrant economy, that business is not the enemy, that the way to maximize taxable income is not necessarily by raising tax rates, but in fact by making the economy bigger and actually lowering tax rates in many cases so that it's a more attractive place in which to live and work. That's what we need to do.
As a whole, Maryland's population went down by about 9,000 people over the last 2 years. U.S. population is actually up with an estimated increase of about 2 million people. All right, take a look at this. A parade of pink outside Columbia Mall. A rare appearance from the Hello Kitty Cafe truck brought out dozens of fans selling special merchandise from 10 to 7 yesterday. Hello Kitty fans making the most of their opportunity there.
The Hello Kitty Cafe is only, the stationery store is only in California. So this truck coming here and offering whatever they have in California here for everybody on the East Coast is pretty much the only way you're going to get it unless you go online. I got a bunch of cookies, some macarons, I got this little tote bag, I got a t-shirt, a mug, and a thermos.
Some people reported waiting in a line for 3 hours just to grab their merchandise. A helping hand for Marylanders with disabilities, how a group is focusing on putting food on their tables in today's Maryland Moment. And today's going to be cooler than it was yesterday. Meteorologist Amy Aronson is going to let us know what we can expect for the rest of the Sunday. All right, National Disability Awareness Month may be behind us, but Catholic Charities and Meals on Wheels, well, they put a special twist on their standard meal deliveries. Photojournalist Nathan Aaron rode along with them and has their story in this Maryland Moment.
I like it very much. I love it.
We gather meals to deliver to the elderly that are unable to go out and get the meals. It's rewarding. You see them, they are happy to give back. And we wear badges. They come, they get their badges out. The people that we serve, when we bring them into the community, we don't only want them to go and do, activities. We want them to give back as well. Thank you. they understand that they're doing this from the goodness of their hearts and that this is helping other people.
How you doing? Oh. I love giving back to the community. I love being around people. I love cheering the elderly up because right now they need a little bit of cheering.
Off to the next stop, guys.
Next stop, right?
Off to the next stop. I'll open it for you.
It makes me feel good because I think they should have things to do to make them feel important. He was very nice today, you know, saying my hair, I had a nice haircut.
Hello.
Oh, that's your wheels.
I think they ought to do it more often.
7:45 on this Sunday morning. Despite the rain and the winds that moved through yesterday, unfortunately not much of a relief from our pollen problems. Maple, elm, and poplar continue to be an issue. We're in the high category today if you're suffering from allergies, and actually we stay there all week long. I am tracking a nice little warming trend, but with the warmer temperatures comes even more pollen. Looks like our levels will peak Tuesday into Wednesday through Thursday before we get a little bit of relief. Today, we are much cooler despite the sunshine that's shining down on Camden Yards and M&T Bank Stadium right now. Temperatures are starting off in the mid-40s. We end up in the mid-50s today, so much cooler than it was yesterday. Cool and breezy and to the weekend. We are looking at a warmer start to a brand new work week, though. Of course, we had some downed trees, little bit of power outages yesterday in wake of the storms. But that's long gone now, and that's because high pressure is building in from the west behind our latest weather maker, sending us nothing but sunshine today. Actually, if I zoom things out, you'll notice two areas of high pressure moving in and not much in terms of rain. So we are actually looking at a pretty quiet start to a brand new week. Temperatures are definitely much cooler today. We're starting off in the brisk 40s this morning. We only end up in the low to mid 50s this afternoon. We'll actually start your Monday off in the 40s too, but then we kick off a nice little warming trend. So temperatures will start to rise out of the 40s into the 50s and eventually back into the mid and upper 60s by the end of the day tomorrow. Then we're tracking our next weather maker. Looks like this is going to arrive midweek. It's not a strong storm system, nothing compared to what we saw yesterday that brought us all the gusty winds and the severe storms, just some showers. A few showers show up right around midday on Wednesday into Wednesday evening, and then they will linger through early Thursday. Right now, forecast models are indicating these showers will linger up until first pitch for our home opener on Thursday, but then it looks like they'll scoot out during the evening. So that means drier conditions for much of the home opener. So we are looking ahead to Thursday when we welcome the Orioles back to Camden Yards. Exciting day for a little bit of baseball there, and it's actually going to feel like baseball weather. Temperatures will be nice and mild. So despite the extra clouds and that shower chance, especially for first pitch through the start of the game, temperatures are going to be warm and in the mid-70s to start. Looks like low 70s as that game wraps up on Thursday. Looking ahead at what's to come leading up to that, upper 60s for us tomorrow, mid-70s starting on Tuesday, upper 70s Wednesday into Thursday with that brief shower chance. That warm-up doesn't last all week. Behind that weather maker, temperatures will cool back down. So we are back in the upper 50s Friday through Saturday, but it looks like we are dry as we kick off next weekend, which is actually Easter weekend. Taylor?
With the game in the palm of their hand, or in this case, the webbing of the glove, the O's fall to the Red Sox in a devastating fashion. We recap Saturday's loss in Boston just ahead on Sports Unlimited. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning.
Welcome into your morning sports report. I'm Rocco DeSangro. There are times in a 162-game season where things will go a team's way. That was not the case yesterday for the O's. They had the game won, the Red Sox down to their final out, but the Birds gave the Sox an inch, and Adam Duvall took a mile. Here's how they got there. Adley Rutschman singled in his first at bat, so 1 on for Ryan Mountcastle. Money shot off the DraftKings sign. The 2-run bomb, his first of the year. Austin Hayes had a big day. He went 5 for 5 with a solo shot. Third first inning homer, rather, for the Birds through 2 games. The bats are cracking early on. Top 3, Cedric Mullins joins in on the fun. The O's bats were just scorching hot. How about a 7-1 lead for Dean Kramer? But he had a rough bottom half of the third, giving up 2 2-run home runs. This one to Adam Duvall. Kramer went 3 innings, 5 earned on 6 hits. So let's go to the drama-filled 9th. O's with an 8-7 lead. Red Sox down to their final out. Routine fly ball for Ryan McKenna, and he drops it. And that would give Boston life. The very next batter, Adam Duvall, and he's going to walk it off with another 2-run blast. O's fall to the Red Sox, 9-8 the final score. What happened?
Yeah, Mac's done a really great job in the outfield for us for a few years now, and it's just mistakes happen, and unfortunately it was just a tough time, but we have a lot of confidence in him and his defense, and feel bad for him right now. Nobody feels worse in there than Mac, and so just gotta rally around and try to get one tomorrow.
Yeah, I ran to it pretty hard. It was up in the sky, and I guess I just didn't follow all the way through with it. Hit the butt of my glove and just fell out. It was unfortunate timing, and Bautista was throwing a hell of a neat inning there, and all of our guys were really working hard to put us in a chance to win that game, so just tough timing.
Number 1 overall pick Jackson Holliday will begin the 2023 season in A-ball with Delmarva. The Shorebirds announced their break camp roster, and it was a 19-year-old shortstop headlining the list. Holliday is currently ranked as the Orioles' number 3 prospect and 12th overall in Major League Baseball. Jackson and the Shorebirds get their season underway this Thursday. From Baltimore to the big stage, Angel Reese is putting on for her city. In LSU's Final Four win over Virginia Tech, the former St. Francis Academy and Maryland standout had 24 and 12 with 3 steals. Now she has the chance to live out every basketball player's dream, and she's doing it with a ton of support from back home.
I don't know if anybody has got to the national championship from Baltimore. I'm not sure. But I know so many people have reached out to me, the mayor, the Baltimore Ravens, the Orioles, everybody's standing behind me right now. And the support I have, my mom, my brother, my whole family, they came out as well. So to be the one to be able to do this and being able to lead by example, I'm just proud because not a lot of people can say that they do this from Baltimore.
Let's check in with Maryland lacrosse. Number 2 Terps hosting unranked Michigan. Braden Erksa from Kyle Long. Terps take a 2-1 lead, but that was the only time they led in this game. The Wolverines just punched them in the mouth. Josh Sawada making it 6-2. Then in the 4th, Jimmy Pisani puts Michigan up 6. Caden Onagi would score for the Terps with 42 seconds left. But it's Michigan upsetting Maryland 16-11. Number 7 Johns Hopkins hosting 9th-ranked Rutgers at Homewood Field. Brooks English takes this one himself to give the Blue Jays a 7-3 lead. The Scarlet Knights would go on to score 4 unanswered, though, to tie the game. Shane Knobloch, unassisted, knots it at 7. Ryan Evans, he's going to break that tie here. Off the feed from Jacob Angelis. Lets it fly. Johns Hopkins picks up a big win at home. 16-12 the final from Homewood Field. Johns Hopkins women's lacrosse looking to snap a 2-game losing streak, taking on number 25 Rutgers. Cassidy Spillis gives the Scarlet Knights an 11-5 lead in the 3rd. But how about this? Bailey Cheatham, Campbell Case, Ashley Macklin, Charlotte Smith, Georgie Gorelick, Cheatham again, and Gorelick again. 7 unanswered for the Blue Jays as they go on to beat Rutgers. 12-11 the final score. What a comeback. Towson women's lacrosse hosting Elon for its breast cancer awareness game. The Tigers put up a 17 spot in their highest scoring game of the year. Milana Zizakovic led the way with 5 goals, while Lindsay Marshall added 4 in the 17-14 victory. Let's check out the local lacrosse scoreboard. Men's action. Towson falls to 2-7 with a 13-12 loss to Stony Brook. UMBC drops its game with Albany 12-6. Number 14 Loyola handles Holy Cross 15-8 behind hat tricks from Adam Patra and Henry Haberman. The 9th-ranked Loyola women's team extends its win streak to 4 with a 20-7 victory over Holy Cross, just putting up points. Georgia Latch had 5 goals and 4 assists. Casual 9-point game for her. That's awesome stuff. And UMBC drops its America East contest with Bryant, 13-12, the final score. That's your morning sports report. I'm Rocco DeSangro. Have a great Sunday.
Some lawmakers worried a new bill aimed to protect Americans from TikTok could actually infringe on their constitutional rights. I'm Kayla Gaskins in Washington.
The month of April starting off with a quadruple shooting. The calls for change from city residents and the mayor to stop the violence. And after a lot of debate in Annapolis, lawmakers have reached an agreement on the future of the Boost program, how they were able to save that money that families rely on.
After a warm, windy, and stormy start to the weekend, today looks much different. I'll explain how in a couple of minutes.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
Good morning to you. We're looking live over Towson right now, and not too many people up, but maybe they'll get out later today. We're looking for a sunny day here. It's April 2nd. I'm Taylor Stewart. Let's get over to meteorologist Amy Aronson, because I don't even know what to expect based on what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday, a little bit of everything. We had the sunshine, we had the warmth, but then we had the storms, and then we had the winds. We had a peak wind gust of 63 miles an hour reported at BWI yesterday. So if you're waking up to a little bit of wind damage at your house, not shocking, considering how strong the winds got yesterday. This morning, they're much better, much more manageable, coming in from the northwest at 10 to 15 miles an hour right now. These winds should continue to calm down as we head throughout your Sunday. It is much colder this morning. Behind Find that weather maker. We've got 39 in Westminster, 42 in Cockeysville, 43 in Bel Air. So layer up if you're stepping out for the first time this morning. Maybe getting the dog out feels brisk despite the sunshine. It's a little deceiving. We've got some winds on our hands, plus we're starting off in the low 40s. We do end up in the mid 40s by the end of the morning, and winds will continue to calm down. Coming up in 10 minutes, I'll explain how long this cool down lasts and when we are tracking our next weather maker in the week ahead. Taylor?
All right, we're starting off this morning in a city in crisis. 3 people were killed in a shooting last night along Woodring Avenue in northeast Baltimore. Police say the shooting happened around 8:45. When they got there, they found 4 people with gunshot wounds. 2 men were pronounced dead at the scene. 2 people were then taken to the hospital. One of them died in the hospital. The 4th victim is still in critical condition this morning. Mayor Scott says the suspect needs to come forward, adding that it's one of the most disgusting things he's seen in his time in office. Police are asking if anyone knows anything about this shooting to call homicide detectives at Metro Crime Stoppers 8667 lockup. Baltimore police are also investigating a double shooting along West 22nd Street in North Baltimore. This is just a block from the Maryland Avenue subway station. 2 men were shot there, 25, 38. Both were taken to the hospital. Anyone with information about this shooting as well asked to call Metro Crime Stoppers. And calls to address crime, they're growing louder in Annapolis. There are 3 bills currently on the table as this session is coming to a close. Senate Bill 564 makes theft of any handgun a felony, as well as House Bill 5952, the Violent Repeat Offenders Act. It would increase jail fines and time for gun crimes. It also closes a loophole in which drug dealers get a lighter sentence than someone convicted of the same offense. House Bill 481, or the bill that's been backed by City State's Attorney Ivan Bates, it'll increase the maximum jail time from 3 years to 5 years for those older than 21 if you're convicted of an illegal gun crime.
I've gone to too many funerals. I've gone to and watched too many people and young boys and young men and young kids and young ladies who look like me and you that are dying and losing their life.
I understand the wraparound services, and I agree with that. And I don't want to see mass incarceration, but we will see accountability.
Baltimore City residents and community leaders are demanding change. Those calls are now being echoed in Washington. Vincent Hill spoke to 2 members of Congress from both sides of the aisle and why they're showing support for Baltimore's top prosecutor.
On Caroline Street, a prayer for change in Annapolis.
Over every constitutional legislation, your word will proceed.
In Mondawmin, frustration with the elected leaders.
Do your jobs. Honestly, do your jobs, get it cleaned up.
About the endless violence in the streets of Baltimore.
Hold these people accountable for their crimes and their violence, dealing with repeat offenders that are out here still committing crimes.
As several tough on crime bills stall, 2 lawmakers on different sides of the aisle, Maryland's lone Republican, Representative Andy Harris, and Democratic Congressman Kwasi Mfume, supporting City State's Attorney Ivan Bates.
I think Baltimore took the right first step, which is to reject Marilyn Mosby and to elect a new state's attorney who I think is talking about doing the right thing.
In House Bill 481, Bates is looking to increase jail time for illegal guns.
5 years is the magic number. I'm asking for 5 years.
Currently, anyone 18 to 20 gets up to 5 years, while anyone 21 and up only receives as many as 3 years. Bates wants that sentence of 5 years the same across the board to guarantee anyone getting the max serves at least a year, even if they're released early.
If he delivers on those promises, I think Baltimore becomes a safer place.
Ivan Bates is right on point.
Congressman Kwasi Mfume standing behind the bill, even writing a letter to the committee as to why.
I support it because it's the right thing to do.
At the rate at which people are shot and killed in Baltimore City,
It seems like it's a way of life, but it shouldn't be.
Congressman Mfume is hoping to put politics aside.
Our streets are too violent. There is a loss of conflict resolution, and guns are too plentiful.
To do what's best to reduce the violence on the streets.
There's always going to be one side versus the other. The key is to try to find the consensus in the middle where both sides can reach some sense of an agreement.
Coming up, some lawmakers worried about a new bill aimed at banning TikTok. Why they say it could prevent free speech.
And we are looking at a sunny, breezy, and cooler finish to the weekend. Mid-50s ahead of us today. I'll let you know how long this quick little cool down lasts when we are tracking more showers this week in a couple of minutes. It's 8:05. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News.
There's bipartisan support for a ban on TikTok, but unsurprisingly, lawmakers on both sides of the aisle cannot agree on how to go about it. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins has more from Washington.
When addressing concerns over TikTok,
be under no illusion, this is a weapon.
Some lawmakers fighting to ensure the solution isn't worse than the problem.
Use fear to coax Americans.
Senator Rand Paul shooting down fellow Republican Josh Hawley's bill to ban TikTok over First Amendment concerns.
Speech is protected whether you like it or not.
Paul then going after the Bipartisan Restrict Act, pointing out the bill's broad, vague language opens the door for unintended consequences that could infringe on Americans' constitutional rights.
This is a crazy gift of power to one person. And I don't care which party they're in, it's a huge mistake.
Business Insider quoting Republican Senator J.D. Vance, equating the bill to a Patriot Act for the digital age. Vance's comparison referring to the post-9/11 law, created for the purpose of combating future terror attacks, but in reality, it granted the government vast surveillance power, powers the feds used to spy on Americans. Critics like Senator Paul arguing the Restrict Act could have similar unintended consequences, endangering First Amendment rights.
Do you want Joe Biden to be your censor? It would basically be a limitless authority for the president to ban speech.
One of the bill's sponsors, Senator Mark Warner, firing back.
I categorically reject that. The bill is clear that the Secretary of Commerce would have to prove with data, with information, that there is a systemic risk from any of these applications.
Warner pointing out the Restrict Act targets companies, not individuals. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
All right, Meta makes artificial intelligence and robots into a new era. The parent company of Facebook has announced they're one step closer to developing robots with advanced skills. They say they created a way for those robots to learn from humans, performing daily tasks through videos. Some tasks include cooking, cleaning, sports, crafts. Now, after this, the robot is capable of moving around and rearranging your house from one location to another. Look at that. A live look at Capitol Hill this morning, where approval ratings for some lawmakers are hovering below 30%. It's reigniting talks about term limits in Congress. National correspondent Christine Frizzell has the story.
Let me put it this way.
They are some of the most powerful lawmakers on Capitol Hill, and their combined age, 323 years, is not the problem.
We've been here longer.
Their combined years of service, 160 years, is, for some, calling for change.
Enmeshed in backroom deals and broken promises, our capital has too often become a political playground for the powerful and the well-connected.
For years, Senator Ted Cruz has been calling for term limits. Now he, along with Congressman Ralph Norman, has proposed a constitutional amendment to limit the number of terms members of Congress may serve. 3 two-year terms for members of the House and 2 six-year terms for the Senate, though Cruz himself is currently running for a 3rd term.
I've introduced a constitutional amendment to put that into the Constitution.
But you're still running.
And if and when it passes, I will happily comply. I've never said I'm going to unilaterally comply.
Supporters say it's long overdue, despite a similar bill supported by the public failing back in 1995.
I support term limits. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't participate. The majority of folks just don't participate in those critical midterm elections and primaries.
Many Democrats, though, oppose the plan. They say for one simple reason: experience matters.
I've gone through the economic collapse of 2008. So as people are talking about recession now, many of us are talking about what we did and to get out of it.
Government is very complex. The only people that know what's going on under term limits are the lobbyists and your paid staff.
Why do you think term limits, though, is so popular with voters?
Because it rings well, throw the bums out.
Others say term limits already exist in a sense, allowing voters to decide. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzell.
The Boost program is set to receive more money after it survives threats of getting it slashed in Annapolis. The decision, what it means for school choice and lower-income families. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning. And Adnan Syed's murder conviction now reinstated. We're going to take a closer look at that ruling and what's next to come. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning. Okay, wrap your mind around a child sex offender living on a street right next to your child's school. It sounds outrageous, but it is happening in Maryland. Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains the next few weeks in Annapolis will determine if it continues.
Your example was terrifying about the child pornographer living across from the school.
Lisa Jordan is the executive director of the Maryland Coalition Against Sexual Assault.
We really need to do a better job about supervising sex offenders.
Sex offenders living just feet from schools.
Jordan is reacting to this Project Baltimore investigation, which found dozens of registered sex offenders just in Baltimore County living so close to schools they can see the school property from their properties. Some live directly across from the school, including multiple Tier 3 offenders, a designation reserved for those convicted of the most severe sex crimes.
That's concerning.
But Jordan says there's currently a bill going through Annapolis that would strengthen Maryland's laws when it comes to supervising many sex offenders.
That's what we need. Actual individual plans that help keep us safe and keep our kids safer.
Maryland has no laws restricting where a sex offender can live. Opponents of residency restrictions point out that sex offenders often know their victims before assaulting them. And if sex offenders can't live, say, 1,000 feet from a school or daycare, then there's very few places where they can live. That can drive sex offenders underground, which makes them harder to track.
And the last thing we want is to lose track of sex offenders. We need to keep track of them.
Surrounding states, such as Virginia and Delaware, have passed restrictions on where sex offenders can live. In Virginia, a sex offender who is 3 years older than the victim cannot move within 500 feet of a school or daycare. In Delaware, if any sex offender moves within 500 feet of a school, it's considered a felony. In Pennsylvania, a sex offender may be restricted from living near a school or daycare under a court order, or if they are under supervision by parole or probation, where a specific restriction designates where the offender may reside.
This is a necessary bill to protect our children.
In Annapolis, last week, the Senate Judicial Proceedings Committee debated Senate Bill 57, which increases the number of sex offenders in Maryland who would be supervised for life by parole and probation. Right now, many sex offenders are supervised by the state. If their supervision restricts their residency, that restriction would end when their supervision ends. If an offender is supervised for life, the restrictions would remain. In other words, a sex offender convicted of manufacturing child porn may not be allowed to ever live next to a school.
We need to have more supervision and more flexibility to really make sure that what we're doing with sex offenders is not driving them underground and it's keeping our kids safe.
But the bill, which passed unanimously in the House, receives some pushback in the Senate, specifically from State Senator Jill Carter, who represents Baltimore City.
I do have a level of discomfort with a lifetime supervision. We already have a lifetime registry, right? Like they're already registered. The registries are public. Everybody can look it up. Everybody knows. If you violate the registry, like if you fail to register, that's a crime.
But supporters of the bill, like Jordan, say the registry alone is not enough. It only alerts the public of where a sex offender lives. It doesn't necessarily help keep the public safe, according to Jordan, especially if a person convicted of manufacturing child porn can still live next to a school.
They need to be supervised, and they certainly shouldn't be living in front of schools.
I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
Last Wednesday, Senate Bill 57 was voted on by a Judicial Proceedings Committee. It got favorable recommendations with an added amendment to that bill. All right, let's see if we have some favorable weather in store for us today on this Sunday. Meteorologist Amy Aronson. Is the rain out of here, or are we still working on that?
Rain is gone. We're done with the strong winds. Things will be calming down today. But look at the path of destruction the storms from last night left behind. Lots of wind damage across our region. You can see the little downed tree icons here indicating wind damage across much of central Maryland from the strong winds that gusted up to 50, 60 miles an hour in some spots late last night. Now that storm has moved on, that weather maker well offshore, coming in behind it, high pressure. High pressure is going to send us fair weather, at least for a couple of days. We're waking up to blue skies and sunshine today. Not as warm as it was yesterday. We're back in the mid-40s. It was such a treat yesterday. So many folks outside enjoying the sun during the afternoon before the storms arrived. Today's going to feel a little different. You're going to have to break out your jacket again. Northwesterly wind blowing at 13 miles an hour right now, making it feel kind of brisk. And that's going to continue this afternoon. A light breeze today with sunshine. Temperatures end up in the mid-50s as we head through the afternoon. Temperatures are trending up on Monday. We're back into the upper 60s, and that's just the start of a nice little warming trend here as we head through early April. We're in the mid-70s on Tuesday. Upper 70s will follow both Wednesday and Thursday. Thursday, that's great news for our home opener. The only issue we'll face on Thursday will be some scattered showers. Now, this warm-up's not going to last. Our 8 to 14-day temperature outlook from the Climate Prediction Center indicates a decent chance for actually below average temperatures. That's all the blue on the map here for the Mid-Atlantic, and that would take us from April 9th up through mid-April, April 15th. In the short term, we enjoy a little warm-up. Temperatures climb from the 50s to the 60s tomorrow to the mid-70s on Tuesday. Upper 70s will follow on Wednesday with some spotty showers. I think scattered showers on Thursday for the home opener, at least to start, but the game shouldn't be a washout. The warm-up doesn't last. After that weather maker moves through, you'll notice the impact it has on our temperatures as we head into Easter weekend. We're drier Friday and Saturday, but we're also much cooler. We're actually closer to where we should be for this time of year, with high temperatures backing off into the upper 50s as we head into the weekend. Remember, you can always use that QR code you see at the bottom of your 7-day forecast there. If you want to use it, all you have to do is go up to your TV, scan it with your phone, and it's going to take you right to our WBFF weather app. And you can also get all these weather updates there for free. Taylor?
Pope Francis leading Palm Sunday Mass after being discharged from the hospital. Just ahead, what he told journalists. And after the break, Twitter is changing its verification rules. Some big-time accounts aren't happy about it, but the White House is now offering their own response. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning. Making headlines this morning, Pope Francis has been released from the hospital. He underwent treatment for bronchitis. He's expected to lead at least 2 services during Holy Week, starting with a Palm Sunday Mass today. The Pope joked with journalists as he left the hospital, saying he's, quote, still alive. Twitter is beginning to phase out those blue check marks on verified accounts that were approved before Musk took over the company. If you want to keep that blue check mark, you're going to have to pay an $8 monthly fee. The White House and some prominent government accounts will be continued to show a verified status with a gray check mark. They will not have to pay the platform, but a memo from the executive branch tells staffers if they want to keep their check marks, they'll have to pay out of pocket. Google is eliminating some benefits for employees and executives as the company pursues some cost-saving measures. Some of those perks include free employee snacks. They're going to close some cafeterias and adjust purchases on equipment such as computers. The company wants to improve efficiency in servers and data centers. They say the cost-saving changes are necessary to have more resources for artificial intelligence development and their core business news. They recently laid off about 12,000 workers worldwide. Vice President Kamala Harris is wrapping up her week-long trip in Zambia. She had a roundtable there where she's pushing for $7 billion in private investments. It's aimed at conservation efforts and food production.
In each of these engagements, it has been clear there is a strong desire from leaders on this continent, from young entrepreneurs on this continent, to increase investments on this continent.
Prior to her visit to Zambia, the vice president stopped by Ghana, where she was pressed on whether wealthy nations should help poor countries cope with climate change, a commitment made under the Paris Climate Accord. Social Security trust funds are running low and expected to run out by 2034. This comes from a new report from Security Trustees, which shows Americans will get smaller checks come 2034. Congress doesn't change the problem now. About 66 million Americans received Social Security benefits last year. Another turn in the story of Roy McGrath, the former aide turned fugitive. Just ahead this morning, the author of a mysterious tell-all book giving some pretty damning details. The temperature is going to be in the upper 50s today. Meteorologist Amy Aronson is going to let us know how this first week of April is shaping up. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
Look at that sky, look at that sun. It's going to be a good day here in Baltimore. Thanks for being with us this Sunday, April 2nd. I'm Taylor Stewart. Let's get to your forecast. Meteorologist Amy Aronson, I love what we're seeing right now. Tell me it's staying.
Yeah, staying. It's going to be sunny. It's going to be cooler. So if you're a fan of the cooler temperatures, this is the morning for you. We're back in the 40s. It's not quite as mild as it was yesterday. Low to mid 40s right now. Definitely a chill out there. We're down about 20 degrees from this time yesterday. Yesterday felt really, really nice. Today, not necessarily going to be the case. But if you're planning some time outside this afternoon, maybe you want to get some yard work done, start cleaning out the garden, not bad today. We've got sunshine. It's just going to be a little breezy and much cooler cooler, so you're going to want to have the jacket on. Temperatures are settling back into the low and actually mid-50s this afternoon. But I am tracking another warming trend this week, along with a chance for some showers. I've got an updated look at exactly when that next weather maker moves in and what it means for our home opener for the Orioles later this week in just about 10 minutes. Taylor?
At the end of the day, he was able to apply to every college he wanted to and got accepted into every single college that he wanted to. It's a help, it's a lifeline, it's an invaluable program to so many families that are in need.
Continuing your Session 2023 coverage, lawmakers approved the state's largest need-based student aid program. Governor Westmore wanted to cut funding from the Boost program and phase out this $9 million program, but many in Annapolis are calling this a victory, particularly in our area. Joining us this morning is Delegate Kathy Schleiga. She joins us right now. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Taylor.
You also were a teacher, so you have a strong background in education. I just want to know what got us up to this point, because this is a scholarship that serves so many students, not only in Baltimore County, but Baltimore City.
Yes, it serves students in our entire state, but very definitely the most scholarships are in Baltimore County, followed by Baltimore City. This Boost program that Governor Hogan started is huge. It helps kids in failing schools find a way out. We have, as Project Baltimore has reported over and over, 23 city schools with 0 kids proficient in math. We have 8 in Baltimore County, 0 kids proficient in math. We have a governor who knows that and says, in his book that his success is largely owed to his non-public school education. So it was very surprising when he tried to cut the program. So the great news, the conference committee met. They've restored $9 million to the program, and they put some extra money in for tutoring, and a really huge victory. They cut the language to end the program. So this is really great that we're going to keep the program. I have to thank the members of the House and Senate budget committees that worked really hard to make sure that we could give kids a quality education.
And this is a great move, especially for those families who depend on this program. There was a lot of conversation about it getting cut or being phased out. Will this be something we see every year in the General Assembly? I mean, a little bit of your context there from the conversations you guys are having in the halls.
Yes, I think it unfortunately is something that we're going to have to fight for every year. The public schools get $9 billion a year or more. I mean, as the new education program phases in, it'll be much more from state money. And this program gets $9 million. So it's really just a pittance, out of our over $40 billion budget. So giving this to students in failing schools, and the program will continue. It will prioritize siblings of kids in the program and then open it up, hopefully, to other kids. I'm just really proud of what we've accomplished in keeping this program. And, I hope Governor Moore maybe changes his mind and puts some additional money in it next year.
You guys were able to get some additional perks in there. Tell us a little bit about the security and the nurses that you guys were able to kind of get into that the funding.
Yeah, we got $2.5 million for health and safety. And that's going to help with nursing and school safety, and $3.5 million for tutoring and other educational purposes. Look, we know the pandemic wreaked havoc on many of our students. Grades, testing scores are low. So, really a huge impact. And tutoring, as a former educator, a mom and a grandmom, with little grandkids in elementary school, tutoring is the way to go. You have a kid that's struggling and not quite up to grade level, or, just needs some extra help. Tutoring is the way to go. So I think those were really smart measures that were taken by the Budget Committee, and we'll be voting on that bill on Monday.
All right, Ms. Schleiga, while I've got you here, I have to ask about where we're seeing some stalled progress. This is one area, education, that we're seeing some movement, but folks really do want to see some movement when it comes to crime. Can you give us a little bit more background about what kind of is the holdup? Because there are some good bills that have been proposed that are stuck in committee.
Yes, there are the Repeat Violent Offenders Act, making it a felony to steal a handgun. I mean, that's such common sense. You ask anybody, should it be a felony to steal a gun? Every single person says yes. You know, it is unfortunate that these bills are stalled in committee. We have 1 week. Our session ends a week from Monday night at midnight. We are going to work tirelessly to shake that loose. There's another bill stalled that we're really working hard on. There is a child porn loophole in the state law. Our law allows child pornography to be streamed by pedophiles and criminals. We just cannot, I personally and others cannot leave this General Assembly session next Monday without passing that bill. We've got to protect children. I mean, finding out that there is a loophole, the law hasn't caught up with technology, and there are criminals streaming child pornography in our state who cannot be charged. It's unconscionable that that bill has not moved yet.
We'll be watching for progress on that for sure.
Yeah, I'll certainly update you all. This is a priority for many of us in the House Republican caucus to get this bill moving.
All right, Kathy, 1 week left. So much work to do. You guys got it. We'll be looking out for the latest as you guys wind down the session. Thanks so much for joining us here on Fox 45 Morning News.
Thanks, Taylor.
Absolutely. All right, well, a helping hand coming for those with disabilities. How one group is getting food on their tables in today's Maryland Moment.
And winds are calming down today. Strongest winds will be this morning, and then they should taper off this afternoon and this evening. I'll let you know what this means for our temperatures for the end of the weekend today in a couple of minutes. It's 8:36. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News.
All right, let's take a look at today's Steals and Deals.
The following segment is sponsored by Knocking.
So, what if I told you that American drivers spend an average of nearly 18,000 minutes behind the wheel each year? That's according to a survey from AAA. And with extreme weather like the hurricanes and the floods we've all been seeing in the news, we really do need to be prepared for emergencies in our cars. That's why I always keep the React multi-tool in my glove compartment. This is a 7-in-1 tool, and it can seriously save your life. It's common for a car door or seat belt to jam after a crash, and if that happens, this little device, it can act as a seatbelt cutter, a window glass breaker. React also has portable power as well. It just plugs into your car's cigarette lighter port, so it's always right next to you. You just grab it when you need it. And I love this because in an emergency, every second counts. React also has a power bank, so it's going to keep you connected to your family and friends, so they won't be worried about you in a crisis. Plus, it has an SOS audible alarm, a flashlight, and a flashing red signal. I really like this. I'm going to get one for all of my friends and family members because everybody's in the car just driving all over the place, and this could really make a difference.
Right now on asadeals.com, we are offering an exclusive 44% off. So get one for you or share the gift of safety with someone you love.
All right, we just finished National Disability Awareness Month, and while it's behind us, Catholic Charities and Meals on Wheels, well, they're putting a twist on their standard delivery options. Photojournalist Nathan Aaron rode along with them and has their story in this Maryland moment.
I like it very much. I love it.
We gather meals to deliver to the elderly that are unable to go out and get the meals. It's rewarding. You see them, they are happy to give back. And we wear badges. They come, they get their badges out. The people that we serve, when we bring them into the community, we don't only want them to go and do, activities. We want them to give back as well. Thank you. One hot meal. They understand that they're doing this from the goodness of their hearts and that this is helping other people.
How you doing? Oh. I love giving back to the community. I love being around people. I love cheering the elderly up because right now they need a little bit of cheering.
Off to the next stop, guys.
Next stop, right?
Off to the next stop. I'll open it for you.
It makes me feel good because I think they should have things to do to make them feel important. He was very nice today, saying my hair, I had a nice haircut.
Hello.
Oh, that's your meal. I think they ought to do it more often.
This year, Catholic Charities marks 100 years of service. If you want to volunteer or join the team, just visit cc-md.org. All right, Adnan Syed's murder conviction reinstated by Maryland's appeals court. What this means for him and the Hae Min Lee family.
And pollen levels remain pretty high for the next 5 days. I'll let you know exactly what finally brings them down by the end of the week in a couple of minutes. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News.
All right, months after he was released from prison, a Maryland appeals court has reinstated Adnan Syed's murder conviction. Criminal defense attorney Kirk Nachman joins us this morning with the latest developments in this case. Now, good morning first.
Good morning.
This story is so exciting, I want to jump right in. I mean, a lot of people thought this saga was over when those charges were overturned in September of 2022 after 20 years in prison. It's not.
No, it's not.
Okay, so what's happening now?
So procedurally, the intermediate appellate court in the state of Maryland has decided that legally the conviction should not have been overturned because procedures were not filed at the vacator hearing, and so they reinstated his conviction. Now, Adnan Syed, his attorneys will have 30 days to file an appeal to the Supreme Court of Maryland, or what used to be called the Court of Appeals of Maryland, and that court will decide whether or not it takes the case. In other words, it doesn't have to accept his case. It can accept, and it doesn't necessarily pass judgment on the opinion of the intermediate court or the appellate court of Maryland, but it could just decide, like the Supreme Court of the United States, they don't take every case. However, it's very unlikely, given the high-profile nature of this case, I believe that they will accept certiorari on this case.
I'm curious, I know during the dismissal of those charges, Heyman Lee's family was saying they were not notified that all the charges were to be removed or overturned at the time. Does that have anything to do with the procedural concerns that brought us to this point?
Yeah, I think there were a number of procedural irregularities with how the hearing was conducted and how some of it was more or less conducted behind closed doors. I think the appellate court clearly didn't like that. There were concurring opinions and dissenting opinions in this 100-page or 87-page opinion. So, obviously there was a lot of controversy that was generated even within the appellate judges in terms of how the procedure was followed. Now, ultimately, they did say that the victim's family had the right to be present in person, and that was Zoom was not sufficient. So that was ultimately why they sent the case back to reinstate the conviction.
Gotcha. So are we seeing a shift in victims' rights? And if so, what can victims and relatives expect?
That's a good question. So there's a statute that says that Maryland victims have the right to appear and be heard, although not necessarily be heard, at every proceeding in which a defendant has the right to appear. So, for example, at an initial appearance or at a bail review hearing, a lot of that is conducted telephonically in almost every jurisdiction in the state of Maryland. And so I think this opinion, it's always the unintended consequences. And, if the victim has a right to appear in person, does the defendant have a right to appear in person at these initial appearances, bail review hearings, all these preliminary things that we do that, the victim or the defendant, is very often, at a detention facility. And frankly, it's for the court's convenience. It's for the defendant. It's for speed, so that you don't have to transport someone back and forth. And so it raises a lot of questions as to whether or not those procedures are now constitutionally valid.
All right, I want to circle back to Adnan Syed. Could he possibly go back to jail?
Well, yes, ultimately, if he loses his appeal, he could end up back in prison. I think the Supreme Court of Maryland will pick up cert. Clearly, the appellate court wants them to do that, given the dissenting nature and the fact that they stayed the execution of their opinion for 45 days, which he has 30 days to file the appeal. So if he fails to appeal or the court doesn't grant certiorari, he will go back to jail.
So a lot to follow in this. We thought it was over, but clearly it is not, as this case continues. Thank you so much, Kirk Nachman, for joining us and giving us your legal insight on this case.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All righty, let's get to the weather because it's bright and sunny out there, but the pollen, Amy, the pollen.
The one thing we're stuck with, right? It was so nice yesterday, but pollen problems were high. The rain didn't really help us out much. We're still looking at pollen levels in the high category today. And right now, maple, elm, and poplar are three big concerns. Looks like levels will stay in the high category actually all the way through Thursday. After that, I think we'll see a little bit of relief because we are tracking some showers. No showers today. It's all sunshine. Not as windy as it was last night. Winds have calmed down. Just cool and breezy for the rest of the weekend. Starting off in the mid-40s, ending up in the mid-50s today. We are actually looking forward to a nice mild start to the work week, and then I am tracking some showers showing up again by midweek. Today, high pressure building in. That's going to control our weather pattern for the next couple of days, keeping us nice and dry. In the short term, not really tracking any big weather makers. Things will remain nice and quiet on the radar. We are starting to see temperatures in the low 40s this morning, chilly to begin, actually cooler to end. We're a far cry from the 70s we enjoyed yesterday afternoon. We end up in the low to mid 50s today, so that's what you want to dress for if you're going to spend any time outside. Tomorrow's a little milder, so although we start off chilly Monday morning, by the afternoon, We're already back in the mid and upper 60s, and that's just the start of a nice mild week coming up. We're also tracking some showers right in the middle of the week. That's when our next weather maker arrives. It sends us some showers starting midday on Wednesday. Very, very scattered to start, and then they increase in coverage as we head through late Wednesday night and Thursday morning. We get some additional showers there to start off your Thursday. Actually, some periods of moderate rain during the afternoon. But it looks like for first pitch for our home opener at Camden Yards, showers will be scooting out, and we should actually dry out by Thursday evening. So here's a preview of that home opener forecast for Thursday. Temperature-wise, we're great. Mid-70s, that's the nice baseball temperatures there. Start off with a few showers for first pitch, a shower or two actually through fifth inning. As the game wraps up, I think it's just mostly cloudy. But overall, nice day for a little bit of baseball. Back in Baltimore, exciting stuff. Temperatures will be warming after today, so we are back in the upper 60s starting tomorrow. Mid-70s will follow on Tuesday, and then upper 70s actually briefly on Wednesday before that weather maker arrives. That weather maker will send us some spotty showers on Wednesday. They do become more scattered and a little more likely on Thursday, but they should be moving out late Thursday afternoon, just in time for that game. After that, we're drying out as we head into Easter weekend. Friday and Saturday look nice and dry with a mix of clouds and sun, but behind that front, I am tracking a little cool down. That brings us back into the more seasonable upper 50s both Friday and Saturday. Taylor?
All righty, take a look at this. A parade of pink outside the Columbia Mall. A rare appearance from the Hello Kitty Cafe truck. It brought out dozens of fans, and they sold merchandise yesterday from 10 to 7. Hello Kitty fans made the most of their opportunity.
The Hello Kitty Cafe is only, the stationery store is only in California. So this truck coming here and offering whatever they have in California here for everybody on the East Coast is pretty much the only way you're going to get it unless you go online. I got a bunch of cookies, some macarons, I got this little tote bag, I got a t-shirt, a mug, and a thermos.
Some people waited in line for as long as 3 hours. Just ahead at 10:30, a look at the 12th annual Women's Leadership Luncheon. We'll take you inside. And a musical legend leaving her mark on Maryland. How Dionne Warwick is being recognized for her contributions to the industry. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning.